my savior. Oh, thank the gods. Your arrival couldn't have been more timely. Well done! Just be careful. The Emperor would never forgive me if anything happened to you. Incredible. Envoy, I don't know what you did, but that was miraculous. Envoy, a pleasure as always. I trust you're still holding together? Never a dull moment when you're around. Yes? I can't tell you how grateful I am that you survived the attempt on your life. But let's not dwell on unpleasant matters. So this is the Animancer I've heard so much about. Well, whatever you have planned, I suggest you do it. Could this pillar of Ardra be connected to the plague? We'll talk more at the embassy. I'll ensure the Paradise militia give you free passage into the city. Envoy, there you are. Oh, I wanted to share the good news. Liviana says you're healthy enough to travel. There's no more reason to keep you bottled up in the city. So, the time has come to send you out on assignment. Unfortunately, we have to keep you in Paradise until your killer is brought to justice. Any progress there? Good hunting. I know you won't let us down. Ambassador Falscen, Hylgard, at your service. And you must be our Imperial envoy. Better late than never, I say. Oh, pity you were too late for the Claviger. Damn good fellow. Oh, I can manage. This isn't my first brush with death, and it may not be my last. We heard alarming reports of a blight in the wilderness, and a strange corruption moving toward the city. We tracked the corruption all the way here, but all we found was that creature gone mad. Good people. And a good Claviger. Well, the Claviger and I were investigating a disturbance. But sadly, it got the better of us. Keep it close until we're back at the embassy. I prefer to take bad news in the comfort of my office. Oh, resourceful and polite. The Living Lands is a tad rustic for our tastes, isn't it? Not before I've had the chance to tidy up some unfinished business. Aren't you going to introduce me to your capable companion? Can he be trusted? Well, anything. You might have noticed the Empire doesn't have many friends on these shores. I'm charmed. I take it you had business with the Claviger? Poor fellow. I'm no woodsman, but I'm inclined to agree. Ardra is said to be filled with essence, soul stuff, and maybe the essence will respond to a godlike's touch. What happened? What can you recall? Spare no detail. I believe the guards worked through you, Envoy. Though, as usual, they hide their motives. Inquisitor Ludwine will need to hear of this. I've agreed to share my findings with the Steel Garrote, as long as they do the same. I think you may have overexerted yourself. Once we're back in civilization, bed rest is in order. An attack on your very soul. Such an event could have killed someone, or worse. Let's keep that between us. We don't want to feed her paranoia any more than necessary. Are you blind? We're being hunted. Get rid of the bear and we'll talk after. Oh, take that, you monstrosity! The path to Paradise is a tad overgrown, but I can find my way back. The loss of the Claviger will be felt in every corner of Paradise. I'm well enough to see myself out. Thank you for your concern, Envoy. Not one of my virtues, I'm afraid. I suppose I shouldn't pester you for updates while you're still recovering. Fascinating. Make your way to Emerald Stair and learn what you can about the Dream Scourge. The courtesan, let us say I'm not unaware of her activities. Let us also say that I know why and how these herbs are being used. And I assume you figured it out as well. Do you object? Thank you for your diligence, Envoy. Better to know these things and bide our time. The courtesan, Juliana, fulfills an important public service to the House of Cards we call Paradise. And I hate to remove a card without knowing there's some way to prevent a collapse. Noted. Yes, I suppose it does. And I suppose answering to the Emperor means you have certain obligations. No need to dirty your hands any further, Envoy. I'll see to it that this is taken care of swiftly and efficiently. Given everything that's happened, I can't say I blame you for worrying about security. Well, thinking ahead is the only reason I'm still alive. Ambassador Falscen Hylgard, welcome to our modest embassy. You have every right to your rage, Believe me, I would have stopped it if I could. Rest assured, madame, I'm aware of what happened in Emerald Stair. My job is to prevent hostilities, not to provoke them. Envoy, need I remind you that traveling with an animancer could be hazardous to your life, your very soul. Of course, I'm delighted to see one of your kind in service to Adir. We need all the friends we can get, even unconventional ones. Don't bother. I already know what you're going to say. Envoy, an alarming report crossed my desk. One of our agents in Emerald Stair never reported back from his assignment. I did everything in my power to save Fiormer Siverno. But even diplomacy has its limits. Just remember one thing. With the stroke of a pen, the Emperor's approval can vanish like leaves in the wind. But enough about unpleasant matters. Will there be anything else? I'll take your word for it then. Fair enough. But you might find reason to care when the Inquisitor learns of this. And she will. Though not from me. We'll see that you do. That is a matter of perspective. May I speak frankly? I came here with the understanding that Adir would spread its influence through cooperation and mutual interest. We may question their wisdom, but we cannot question our commitment to the Empire. In a way, I have. New to you and me, perhaps. Maybe not to Inquisitor Ludwine. Inquisitor Ludwine, and apparently our Emperor, had something very different in mind. If only it were that simple. Have it your way, then. I've spoken my piece. You know my feelings. For now, I'd like to move past this. Will there be anything else? It's kept me alive this long. Trust me, it was never my intention to make our work more difficult than it already is. Just because I represent the Emperor doesn't mean I approve of his, at times, whimsical notions. Fiormer Siverno is a problem for Adir, but we have subtler ways of dealing with problems. Naturally. You've done the Empire a great service by carving out one of its many imperfections. I'd call that a job well done. Well done. Which you have demonstrated very efficiently. Happy? No. None of this makes me happy. But there is satisfaction to be found in a well-oiled machine. While you're here, will there be anything else? I'll think nothing of it. Your job is to support the Empire, and mine is to support you, among other things. And what a grand part it's been. Of course, best of luck in your travels, Envoy. Or had I known this was going to happen, I would have done more than warn you. That makes one of us, Envoy. No, it isn't. The Inquisitor saw to that. On the contrary, I should be thanking you. Some of us do, anyway. Inquisitor Ludwine is not among them. I may have heard something to that effect. But of course Inquisitor Ludwine isn't one for sharing information. I take it you have concerns. Trust me, I share them. Envoy, I was under the impression the Emperor sent you to prevent trouble, not cause it. This will be a headache. But a few soldiers missing in action is nothing I can't handle. Let's speak of it no more. Envoy, much as we may not enjoy the pleasure of their company, the Steel Garrote serve an important function. I hope I've made myself clear. Let's say no more about it. This embassy and the Steel Garrote are two fingers of the same fist. And right now, the Empire needs us both. I'm glad you told me. And for what it's worth, I applaud your resourcefulness in finding them. I'm just relieved they didn't hurt you. They're a bit wild for my taste. Do? Envoy, you must do nothing. I've already got my hands full with the locals. We can't jeopardize it all by fighting among ourselves. I beg you, keep out of harm's way. You're too important to our work here. Let's leave it at that. Well, that answers my next question. You must be the animancer I've heard so much about. I know what you must think of me. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. You must be the animancer I've heard so much about. Every bit as outspoken as your reputation. Oh, poor bastard. One of Ludwine's toy soldiers. I never even learned their name. What a mess. The Living Lands is falling apart around us. Not that it would have done us any good. But that's not the Empire's official position, by the by. Well, did he now? Envoy, on my honor as your countryman, his death was not of my doing. Let's speak no more of this. It was the bear that killed him, of course. This wilderness has been a little too wild of late. I'm happy to drop the formalities if you are. Did you? We lost contact with our coastal detachment days ago. I was hoping for better news. The situation is more dire than I imagined. We need a plan of action before whatever this is consumes the Living Lands. What's the matter? Can you hear me? The Emperor trusts your judgment, and so do I. Whatever you think is best, I'll support it. You know something of our troubles. That much is clear. What would you have us do? So, the rumors of plague were true. You suspect a connection. Interesting. I won't stand in your way. I trust your instincts. Let me know how I can help. This has happened to you before? I expected flora and fauna, not a ravenous monster. Indeed. And the source of the blight eludes us still. Well, that's encouraging. The changes in the ecosystem are expected, but this one was progressing too rapidly to ignore. You must be sensitive to the spirit world. Some are gifted, or cursed, with such talents. Not that she has any interest in ecology. Ludwig is obsessed with our security. Sees enemies lurking around every corner. I heard that you two had a connection. Well, she is as you knew her, for better or worse. You have the Emperor's confidence. Make sure to keep it. I'll be keeping a close eye on Paradise, in case trouble arises, which I fully expect it to. Pray that you don't. Our goals are similar, but we serve very different masters. Good luck, Envoy. The Steel Garrote provide us some much-needed protection, but they answer only to themselves. We have our interest in the Living Lands, and they have theirs. A mutually beneficial arrangement. Stay out of their way, and they'll return the favor. Perhaps, but danger takes many forms, some more subtle than others. Good. That might just save your life. You're going to be troublesome, aren't you? At least you're on our side. Make sure and use that to your advantage. You never know. It might come in handy. True. We all want what's best for the Empire. If only everything were that simple. Envoy, what you've done here is truly amazing. Let's keep up the good work, eh? How could I avoid it? If I may be blunt, a corpse hanging outside my office symbolizes everything I hate about the Steel Garrote. While I forge alliances, build trust, and solidify our place on this island, they're butchering people in our name. At least Inquisitor Ludwig got what she wanted. That's what matters, right? I don't appreciate extortion tactics from the Emperor's envoy. Take it, and let us not speak of this again. But you... Very well, if you say so. Shrewd thinking, Envoy. Maybe you should be ambassador. So be it. I can't openly support Juliana's establishment, but I will pass along what funding I can. A rounding error in our books. Feel free to let her know the good news, but do try to keep my name out of it. The courtesan? Interesting. I had my theories about a certain shipment of herbs. I wouldn't have stood a chance against that beast. I owe you my life. I found it pays to be prudent about the company you keep in Paradise. The Empire doesn't have many friends on these shores. Your interests are more aligned than you know. But while you and I answer to the Emperor, Ludwig and the Steel Garrote answer only to themselves. I can't believe you're alive. When they dragged you to Liviana's clinic, I assumed the worst. Oh, Envoy, you return. Envoy, is it really you? Tell me you brought good news. Remember, the assassin is out there. You have the element of surprise. I suggest you use it. Before we can send you off to parts unknown, we need assurances from the local healer that you're fully recovered. Oh, before you go, we received a report from Liviana about your condition. Apparently, you're in fine shape. Your fealty to our homeland conquers death itself. What an inspiration. An unusual course of treatment. But who am I to argue? I'm glad to hear it, but let's err on the side of caution. Safe travels. Come back with a good story, hey? I admire your confidence, but there's no point in being modest with our advantages. I suggest you recruit as many allies as you can, but choose carefully. They, like you, will represent the Empire. You'll have tales aplenty, that's for certain, and a long tapestry of battle scars. The Animancers may have some knowledge of the Dream Scourge already. Learn whatever you can from them. After all, you survived a brush with death. The health of your body is one thing. The health of your soul is another. How do you feel? Not even death can slow you down, I see. You've seen how wild the Living Lands has become, both in nature and in politics. Sometimes I think the island has a mind of its own. Well, not to mention your abrupt and untimely death. At this point, I can't rule anything out. We're in uncharted waters. That you are. And not just on account of your noble heritage. Now, His Majesty names you a loyal servant of the Adiran Empire, and an extension of the throne's authority. No doubt some superstitious peasant toiling in the fields. The Living Lands has plenty of both. My sources tell me the Dream Scourge is a plague of the soul, and souls are their trade. If we have anything in common with Animancers, it's a shared interest in curing the Dream Scourge. I believe that covers everything. Answers. Nothing more. We need all the help we can get, even if it means appealing to Animancers. Fair warning, Animancers and Adirans don't mix well. Their kind can be a tad, unhinged. We'll talk more of the Dream Scourge when you return. Until then, Envoy, no sooner had you arrived than you found yourself at the center of our troubles. Inquisitor Ludwine demands that someone hang for the attempt on your life, and yet you rallied your spirits and reported for duty. Your dedication is admirable. We'll return to the topic of your killer shortly. Our first order of business is your missive from the Emperor. They were paradisans once, law-abiding laborers. Now, they're fugitives and oath-breakers hiding amongst the populace. They've sabotaged our work, killed our soldiers, and the final straw, attacked you out in the open. I won't lie to you, Envoy. Our position is tenuous. If we can't even defend ourselves, how are we to defend the Living Lands? I look forward to hearing about it in your report. Well, be that as it may, we can't have you dropping dead again on your first assignment. I'm sure that a scholar of your prestige is more than capable of self-diagnosis, but time is of the essence. You haven't seen what's really outside of these walls. Trust me, that bear was the least of it. Oh, I wish I could see the killer's face when they realize the hunter has become the hunted. Oh, the people will love it. Nothing pleases them more than watching a noble dirty their hands. Don't be so quick to judge. They got the better of you once, and I don't want history to repeat itself. Something about a labor dispute gone wrong, I think. The Steel Garrote got involved, and it turned quite ugly. Indeed. The killer sent a message, but this is our chance to send one in return. Thank goodness, at least someone understands the gravity of our situation, and I can't think of anyone more suited for the job. Here's something to tide you over, but your work isn't finished just yet. With that, I had better news for him. Homesick already? After what you've been through, I can't say I blame you, but there's work to be done on the frontier. Good work. And I need you here at my side. Maybe that's all it is, but I'm not leaving anything to chance. Ludwine goes where she likes, haunting the Living Lands like a vengeful spirit. She'll reappear when she chooses, and not a moment sooner. Let's make sure to give her some good news for a change. We both report to higher powers, but hers are less forgiving than mine. The choice is yours, as will be the consequences. All I ask is that you use your best judgment. I have no taste for it, But our Inquisitor has other ideas. Once your killer has been dealt with, you can come and go as you please. Trust me, we'll get to that. What of these rebels? The streets are full of rumors, but your word is the only one I trust. So, you took justice into your own hands. That takes grit. More than I expected. Thank the gods. Finally, we can show these people the consequences of their actions. What? What? Well, that wasn't your decision to make. Have I taken leave of my senses? Unbelievable. When an Imperial envoy is killed in the streets, the motive is irrelevant. Envoy, you are the ranking Imperial agent here, and you alone. Well done. Not only did you hunt them down, you had the presence of mind to send reinforcements. Thanks to you, these rebels will continue to undermine our work in the Living Lands without resistance or fear. I know that Ludwine wanted a public execution, but this might do just as well to appease her. Impressive work, Envoy. Not only have you cheated death, but you humbled your own killer. You're damn right it is. Governor Vidaro will be your first point of contact. I'm told he's barely keeping the community in order. Seek him out if you need direction. Should you cross paths with Ludwine, well, try not to. I have no idea what's gotten into her. Safe travels. I'm told Emerald Stair is beautiful this time of year. She is going to be a problem. And you brought a friend. Ambassador Hylgard, at your service. Of course, the official record will show that the killer struck first, and you were merely acting in self-defense. Inquisitor Ludwine will see that the guilty are made an example of. It'll be a lesson that no one forgets. From this day forth, no one will challenge our presence in the Living Lands. Our people are here to stay. Worse still, now everyone knows our flank is exposed. Oh my gods, Ludwine is going to eat us alive. Perhaps you don't know her as well as you think. She has no patience for failure. Do you hear yourself? You honestly think a little history is enough to spare us the hangman's noose? There's nothing to be done. All we can do is brace for the inevitable, though it may damn us in the end. If you knew how she punishes failure, you wouldn't be so quick to dismiss her. She will do the talking. The best we can do is grovel. She wanted a body for the gallows. Who's to say it won't be mine or yours? Or maybe one of your friends. Easy for you to say. The gods saw fit to bring you back from the brink of death. When my time comes, I won't be so lucky. A message has been sent. No one will challenge our presence in the Living Lands. Our people are here to stay. Envoy, tell me this isn't true. We needed to answer this challenge with blood. Don't you see what this will do to our credibility? Oh, yes, that. Whether or not our days are numbered, the city needs us. The least we can do is be useful on our way to the grave. You're right. I need to project more confidence than I feel. How could you let this happen? How comforting. Well, I would feel better if you had done your job. Still, maybe this will spare us the gallows. Good hunting, Envoy. Put her out of your mind. The Dream Scourge is more than enough for us to chew on, at least for now. I'm sending you to Fior Messi Verno, a community of Valian expatriates deep in Emerald Stair. While I appreciate that, there's more work ahead of us. Securing the frontier has only just begun. This will have to do. Now that Ludwine isn't getting her execution, we need to spend a little more on securing the city. Ever the mercenary. I keep a little extra coin set aside for special occasions. You've more than earned it. They need us, whether or not they realize it. The Living Lands is fractured, untamed, and missing a central authority. I want us to be a stabilizing influence on the island, not to cause further division. With any luck, the work you do here will demonstrate the value of our presence. Since Liviana gave you a clean bill of health, you're officially cleared to leave for Emerald Stair. Before I forget, Liviana gave you a clean bill of health. You're cleared to leave for Emerald Stair. Before you go, don't forget to get a clean bill of health from Liviana. Then it's onward to Emerald Stair, but defend it we must, for the sake of everyone who calls this island home. Inquisitor Ludwine, So kind of you to join us. Stay your wrath. Allow me to present the Adiran envoy, dispatched by the Emperor himself, to aid us in our time of need. Under the circumstances, I thought it might be... Has everyone gone mad? Gods, we're not here to colonize a graveyard. Oh, gods, Ludwig. If you're done eviscerating me, you'll be interested to learn I'm sending the envoy to the Animancers of Emerald Stair. Sometimes I wonder. She'll mount your head on one of those points if you aren't careful. For your sake, let's hope it stays that way. No. She invents a crisis, then runs off to solve it. Usually with bloodshed. A fair point. No one survives this place without losing a little sanity along the way. Easier said than done these days. Well, in that case, you should fit right in. At least you'll have that in common, if nothing else. True, but there's always collateral damage to think about. The blame is mine, and mine alone. Oh, that was nothing. Ludwig already despises me. You deserve a sporting chance to avoid her wrath. These Paradisian rebels must face justice. Thank you, Envoy. The island is in capable hands. This embassy has no shortage of political foes. But the Dream Scourge is what keeps me up at night. You've seen firsthand what it can do in nature. We can't let it reach the cities. Would that I had. Inquisitor Ludwig thinks the plague is a distraction. She's more concerned about these local rebels fighting against the Empire. At least rebels know the meaning of negotiation and compromise. But a plague kills indiscriminately. Absolutely. The value of this island cannot be overstated. It's just that the plague, and now these rebels, stand in the way of progress. Whatever their reason, we have to retaliate for the good of the Empire. Your instincts do you credit, though... Even I must admit the rebels have gone too far. True, but you can't investigate the Dream Scourge if you're dead. Indeed, not a moment too soon. Now the Emperor wants you to investigate the Dream Scourge, and I have no wish to delay you any further. Nor should you be. Animancers draw power from the spirit world. Their dark research can twist, break, and even corrupt the very soul. The Empire has no tolerance for Animancers, and with good reason. Their work is dangerous, heretical. If you have any further questions before I dispatch you to Emerald Stair, now would be the time. Animancers tinker on souls using clever inventions and ancient pillars of Ardra, siphoning essence like honey from a hive. They want to change reality as we know it, make us live longer, or cause barren lands to grow. Well, you know what they say about the enemy of my enemy. For all I know, they might be on to something. Or, with a single miscalculation, they might destroy us all. Animancers may be an unpredictable sort, but they are scholars and keenly aware of their environment. Make no mistake, the Empire's at war with the Dream Scourge, and we need allies on our side. Just don't get too curious. It won't reflect well on you in the Empire. Would that I were certain of anything these days. You're right to be curious. After all, animancy is the study of existence itself. I won't ask you to put your soul on the line, but I am asking you to make connections, to seek help wherever we can find it. Captain Cynric said you have a missive for me from the Emperor. You said you had a missive for me from the Emperor? Did the Emperor send you with anything for me? Your writ of commission, perhaps? But we'll return to the topic of your untimely demise shortly. Our first order of business is your purpose here in the Living Lands. Very good. I'm eager to see what our Emperor intends. Execute it faithfully, Envoy. Very good. Do I look as useless as I feel? Don't answer that. I don't suppose you'll have a need for an ambassador after all this. I suppose I'm in exile now. Oh, gods beyond, will I have to get a job? You'll cut to dashing figures our grave, Envoy. Especially once we get you a fine hat. It will cost the Empire a fortune to rebuild Paradise when this is through. That's what taxes are for, I suppose. We should see about raising those. Tomorrow will dawn a brighter day, Envoy. The work we do here in the coming years will reach across generations. Imagine the monuments we'll build, the taxes we'll levy. Oh, what a thrill! Hurry, Envoy. Inquisitor Ludwig isn't known for her patience. The Emperor will have my head for this. I pray the gods will forgive us. because the dead will not. Envoy, history waits for you, Envoy. Go meet it. There is no easy path from here. For you, or any of us. It was my honor to serve as your ambassador. It's not surrender. I'm offering you a seat at the table, Governor. All of you. It's not a claim, Quilici. I'm offering you a seat at the table. All of you. But we should all choose wisely. What makes your claim to it more justified than ours, when we could all succeed together? Strong words for weak stomachs, I think. No one wants to be the one who decides. I'm just telling you how things are, and how they could be. I can't force your hand. Hurry now. Find Ludwine and let her know what we've done here. My gods. Is that the envoy? Envoy? Is it really you? Kostya told us he went into some place called the Garden to seek a god. Mihala told us he went into some place called the Garden to seek a god. It's been weeks, Envoy. What happened? Everyone, please. We could get to the bottom of this if you would only let them speak. Finally, a ray of sunlight shines through the storm cloud. I am not entirely uninformed. Ludwine has been rather more free with her intelligence lately. Warden Commander, look around you. Is this really the time? Ludwine had intimated that this land grew a new god. But how can that be? I suppose it stands to reason. I found that a quick fix is often anything but. What of this god, then? What does it mean that you freed them? What of this god, then? What does it mean that you destroyed them? We will only get to make this decision once. Well, you might not believe me, but I didn't want any of this to happen. The Inquisitor was so convinced the Living Lands would unite against Adia that she's nearly made it true. One people, one law, one true god. That's Ludwine's vision for the Living Lands. Who else should I blame exactly? Our envoy, perhaps, for not stopping Ludwine in the tusks? Ludwine's the muscle. I'm merely the personality. What was I supposed to do? Frown her into submission? It is because she's entirely lost her mind. But nevertheless, they erupted from the earth the moment those bastards stood up their first siege tower. Well, whatever happens, I suppose we can't put the godling back in the bottle now. For now. Who's to say they don't get their feathers in a ruff again and wipe us all out with a tsunami? Altruism is fertile ground for folly, I've found. But come, we have more pressing matters to attend to. The Steel Garrote have attacked Paradis. I assume it is this god we have to thank for the roots tearing apart Paradis? I can't imagine how one goes about destroying a god. But I suspect you've done us all a good turn. Well, whomever takes this island in the end will live in freedom from fear of a resurgent plague, thanks to you. I don't doubt Wodica will ensure you a prosperous future on your next turn about the wheel. You would not be the Emperor's envoy if we could not trust you with the cold calculations. It was Ludwine who called for the attack. I suppose we can only pray you've made the right one. Alas, I found that rarely stops others from having opinions on what you've done. The only humane end for a rabid dog is to put it down. Let's hope they don't decide to further amend themselves by coming for our heads. She and her Steel Garrote laid siege to the city shortly after you beat her to the garden. Well, that's been a point of debate. We can't agree on how to stand against the Steel Garrote, nor who should lead the effort. Even if our meager forces should make it inside. Excuse me? She's a 7-foot-tall skeleton powered by her devotion to the goddess of retribution. This isn't my fault. So long as her passion for Wodica lives, so too will her spirit. It is not, I think, impossible. Recall also that she's a death guard. That's what Ludwine thinks. Enough! I've heard your concerns. We cannot change it now. The Inquisitor answers only to Wodica. In attacking Paradis, she has dragged us all far beyond the bounds of the Emperor's desires. Inquisitor Ludwine has already joined the battle. She must have traveled like the wind to get here so fast. Well, she's seen better days, but you wouldn't know it judging by how she fights. A bit like you're being haunted, isn't it? Or cursed. But that's your affair. Oh, cheer up. You wouldn't be the first to make that mistake. Might not be the last either, depending on how things go. Regrettably, she's not in the business of making exceptions for people she deems oathbreaker. No doubt you'll cross paths in the city. Just try not to get in the path of her sword. You never know. She might be happy to kill you. I'm not sure she feels much of anything anymore, let alone pleasure. Let's hope it stays that way. I would hate to see you lose your head. I wouldn't assume anything about her anymore. I've answered your questions. Now I would like you, all of you, to answer mine. We are leading by example, returning order and dignity to Paradis in the wake of the Clavager's death. Ludwine agrees. Our success would model the order and dignity of the Steel Garrote, for whatever that's worth. I know it will. We will do the same to the frontier, given the chance. What passes between Ludwine and her men, or between Ludwine and the Emperor, for that matter, is not my affair. But if I had to guess, this was the alternative. My administration had nothing to do with that, as I know you know. Adir doesn't revere Wodika as fervently as it once did. Worship of Mogrin, Berith, even Aethys has gained a foothold. Many no longer trust that the gods are listening. Some question whether they guide the wheel at all. The Empire lost its foothold in the Eastern Reach. The well-bred avoid child-rearing in pursuit of cosmopolitan pleasures. The Church is weak against them. In a world of soul against soul, Ludwine believes we have lost ours. The Empire must change, or it will die. Ludwine has sent a message to the Emperor informing him of her attack. He will send advisors and reinforcements swiftly in response. How could I know what paths her convictions would take her down? You and I both know she is not the only one in the Empire who feels this way. Even the Emperor can see, in some sense, that she's right. Why else would we be here? I'm afraid you're in the minority there. Her devotion to her principles is the only thing that keeps her alive. To question them, even for a moment, would mean death. But whatever you decide, understand, the days of the frontier are done. Adir will come. Indeed, we are already here. What will his representatives find when they arrive? A new colony? A budding grave room? The Living Lands would become an extension of the Adiran Empire in leadership and law. In return, the Living Lands would enter Adir's sphere of influence, and should outside nations attempt to invade, we would come to the Grave Room's aid. Think of your people, all of you. Think of the lives at stake. Well, don't leave me in suspense. You have seen more of this land, and met more of its people than any of us. Your opinion is informed. Envoy, be reasonable. This is not a good idea. And in our dealings together, I found you to be a person of substance and conviction. You were empowered by the Emperor himself to investigate an impossible problem. And against the odds, you solved it. But mostly, it's because you're Adiran, so I trust you. And these fine people here are going to do whatever they like if they don't agree with you anyway. Well, let's not twiddle our thumbs while Paradis burns. I couldn't agree more. I believe you'll find the Emperor agrees. A fine compromise. Oh, gods have mercy. It is decided. I will tell the Emperor's men that Paradis will become a colony of Adir. You can't be serious. You'd stand with the Steel Garrote. The lawful settlement of a new Adiran colony, supposedly. She could win with a godlike in her ranks. Your presence would serve as a powerful endorsement. I'm afraid the law's whatever compels her to righteous victory. Remember, she has an obligation to Wodika, a solemn oath. I don't think peace is her concern. She doesn't believe we're here to quell dissent. She's growing the Empire, whether it wants that or not. I suspect that's rather the point. If they don't believe in the strength of her convictions, she'll show them, or the establishment of a Wodican state. And neither the Steel Garrote nor the Queen that was look kindly upon oathbreakers. I will do my level best to convince the Emperor to accept a grave room. That leaves the matter of Ludwine and the Steel Garrote. She will never surrender, Envoy. You must kill her, or we will lose Paradis, and eventually the island. The Paradis militia will be at your back. Give her no quarter. The future waits for you. Well, it's hardly unanimous, but the majority shall rule. Precisely. Somewhere inside that hollow head of hers, I believe she always hoped she'd turn you to her side. Your republics are hardly any different. Their intentions in the Deadfire were certainly not pure. Adiran rule and rule by the Steel Garrote would be markedly different beasts. Our customs would become their customs. Our strengths would become their strengths. Our emperor would become their emperor. Soldiers bearing the flag of Adir would be garrisoned in every town. They would be paid in Adiran shelling and speak only the Adiran language. Their roads would be smooth Adiran roads. Their medicine would be hygienic Adiran medicine. And their weapons would be efficient Adiran weapons, turned toward a common purpose. No one, not Rauatai, not the Vailian republics, not even a rogue god, would dare attack the Living Lands. This island would be safe for the first time in its history, and safe it would remain. The Living Lands would retain its own laws under a grave appointed by the Emperor. Before you face Ludwine, you should know what you're fighting for. All of you must decide, together. The island would provide tribute in the form of resources and taxes, and in times of war, soldiers. They would divide the island into administrative districts and see them governed by mayors appointed from the local communities. The grave would be expected to promote and develop the Living Lands to our mutual benefit. The Empire, I should note, is nearly always at war. Oh, Envoy, no. Do not suggest that lightly. No one will stand with you if you do this thing. What in Remagon's 8 blasted hells are you thinking? Trust is a fragile thing, Envoy. You will only get to make this choice once. Choose wisely. So be it. Let's hope you're right. Change it will, but perhaps not as you'd like. Be clever, be swift, for I fear your life is forfeit. And be well. Go now on Helia's wings. Gods have mercy on us all. Not even the establishment of a colony would satisfy her now. Only the strong survive the frontier. I used to believe that was Ludwine. But you were born to rule here. Quite literally. The riches of your state may dwindle in time. What if you could shape the very future of this island? Come now. You didn't get this far on heritage alone. Naturally, that would be the Emperor's decision. But I suspect he would choose you. Well, give the matter some thought. You owe that much to yourself, at least. Have some faith in yourself, Envoy. You'd grow into the role in time. You're the obvious choice. There is no Adiran who knows this place better than you. You are the close personal friend of a rogue god. You entered a poisonous garden and killed a rogue god. Think of the Emperor. There would be reprisals, ones which this conclave could not survive, fractured as you are. Not unless you came together and formed a nation of your own. It would be difficult. No, impossible. I'm certain you would fail. On your head be the consequences. Give these people an ounce of agency, and there's no telling what they'll do. Wodika, have mercy on my soul. Well, what will the illustrious leaders of the Living Lands decide? Well, I suppose that's rather definitively settled. A grave room it shall be, then. This shall be a united Living Lands. It would seem I misjudged you all. A colony it is, then. And as far as we know, you are the last godlike in the world, and the favored child of a mysterious god. Of course. Well, it would seem we are deadlocked. Well, thankfully, my work is nearly done. And when I am gone, Envoy, Paradise will be yours. So, in the spirit of the times, what say you, Mayor? Nevertheless, it's what's right. Someone very wise said that to me once. In all seriousness, you can quit any time. But in this moment, you are the Mayor-elect of Paradise, so you will decide. As you like. Then I will decide as my Emperor expects of me. As the Mayor pro tempore of Paradise, I vote in favor of a colony. And a colony we shall be. A colony it is, then. A united Living Lands it is, then. No surprises there. I understand your frustration, but please hear me out. Excellent. Now, let me pose you, all of you, a question. What of this god, then?